Hey, thanks for checking out the Next Level Radio YouTube page. If you like what you hear, head to nextlevelradioonline.com. Find other podcasts and interviews that aren't included on the YouTube page, including guests such as Chris Parnell from SNL and Archer, Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It Anyway, Kim Coates from Sons of Anarchy, even Chris Allen from American Idol, and much more. You can also download our podcasts on iTunes and Stitcher or stream them straight from our website at nextlevelradioonline.com. Also on the webpage, you'll find links to our Facebook and Twitter. Make sure you follow us to keep updated on everything we have going on and everything we have coming up. nextlevelradioonline.com also gives you coverage of events such as Philadelphia Comic-Con, and you can even check out our staff blog that includes movie reviews and much more. Again, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and head over to nextlevelradioonline.com for much more. Thanks for listening.
This is Kevin Bigley from Sirens, and you're listening to Next Level Radio.
Do you have an actual nickname on set?
Probably Apple. Yeah, I usually call it Shut Up pretty often. I think that's it. I was always called Smalley when I was a kid. I was so small. They used to call me Kevin Smalley, or Not So Bigley, because I was just a tiny, tiny little kid. But those were my nicknames. And I beat the hell out of those guys.
Hi, this is Chris Gare.
Hi, this is Claire Coffey.
Hey, this is Lucky Yates.
Hey y'all, this is David Hoffman, and you are listening to Next Level Radio. Have fun.
Welcome into this week's episode of the Showcast. I am Adam Gorey. Ben is having some internet connectivity issues, so he will be joining us a little bit later in the podcast. But Steve Richards is joining us again this week, obviously leading up to the Oscars, to talk about a couple more movies today. Steve, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
So this week we're going to have, in a little bit, we'll have a special guest on. Nick Clifford from VH1's Hindsight will be joining us on the podcast. And then after that, we are going to obviously go over the next level news, as well as the 2 Oscar review movies we have this week, along with our predictions, because the Oscars are next week. We are going to review Selma and Boyhood. Yes, thank you. 8 movies. I got to keep them all straight. So we're going to review those 2 movies, and then we're going to go over our predictions for the Oscars, which are next Sunday, the 22nd. We are going to be live tweeting the Oscars, so we won't be recording next week's podcast until after the Oscars, so we can recap. So follow all of us on Twitter. I am at AdamNextLevel. Ben is at NXTLevelBen, and then Steve is at SRichards31, because he's not cool enough, I guess, to have a next level thing. So
I just told my handle to be that long. You got NXT level on it.
Yeah, it is pretty long. That's a good point. But so make sure you follow all of us. We'll be live tweeting the Oscars, probably making fun of each other for picking the wrong picks and things of that nature. So definitely want to make sure you follow. Also follow Next Level Radio on iTunes as well, at NXT Level Radio. Facebook is facebook.com/Next Level Radio Online, and you can check out our old podcasts on iTunes. Just search for Next Level Radio. You can also go to nextlevelradioonline.com for them, in case you're not a fan of iTunes. But let's start things off, as we always do, and do the box office.
Ask me about my winner.
All right.
First, me chuckle.
First up, we'll go backwards from starting at number 5. Jupiter Ascending, sticking in the top 5 in its second week, dropping back from number 3, brought in $9.4 million in its second week, making a grand total of 32.5. American Sniper dropping from number 2 to number 4 with 16.4 million. So still a good bring in, for that one. 8-week total of 304 million. And then SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water getting kicked out of the number 1 spot as it was last week, back to number 3. 30.5 million for a 2-week gross of 93.6. 2 new top 2 movies.
I feel like
Steve,
it's been a while.
Steve, do you want to take a guess as to which one finished 1 and which one finished 2?
50 Shades of Grey smoked everybody. Just on the weekend. I heard the weekend numbers.
All right, well, that's cheating. So, number 2, yes, Kingsman: The Secret Service, $35.6 million. So still a pretty good take for that movie. That one is the one I actually want to see. And then, like Steve said, 50 Shades of Grey, smoking it, 81.6.
Oh my god!
In its opening week.
You gotta give him credit. I heard the movie was terrible, but if you're gonna release 50 Shades of Grey, you're gonna do it on Valentine's Day. So you gotta give him credit for doing that.
Good marketing on their part.
Yeah.
Speaking of terrible movies, 50 Shades of Grey, 26% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Yeah.
51% from the audience. I'm sure if you multiply that by something, you get what it actually made at the box office. Kingsman: The Secret Service has a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, 89 from the audience. So that one, obviously.
Yeah, it's an audience movie for sure.
Yeah, and other movies in the top 5, SpongeBob is certified fresh at 73. American Sniper also certified fresh at 73. Paddington's not in the top 5. Sorry, Steve, but it does have
the eulogy.
Does have a certified 98%. Still riding strong on Rotten Tomatoes. So let's get on to what movies come out this week. And really, there's only one that can even have a chance at making the top 5. And I think it will, only because the first one was, I think, a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. Hot Tub Time Machine 2 coming out with Adam Scott, Gillian Jacobs, Thomas Lennon, Chevy Chase, and everybody else from the first one. Except for, what's his face is not in this one.
Cusack's not in it.
Yeah, John Cusack.
And is it Adam Scott kind of replacing John Cusack? Is that what they're going for?
I guess he must be. I think that's a good replacement if that is the case.
Yeah, I think they kind of look alike, and I think they even have the same name, so I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah, and I mean maybe he's just like the younger version of John Cusack or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So I could see that making the top 5. I mean, if I'm looking at, 50 Shades of...
What's the number for Jupiter Ascending? Like, that's kind of what it has to surpass, right, to get the...
Yeah, 9.4. It'll pass that.
Yeah, that'll do better.
American Sniper was 16.4. You think it gets above that?
Yeah, because I think American Sniper will continue to go down just because it's been out for so long.
Yeah, although it is Oscar weekend, so that could actually bump it a little bit. But yeah, I think I agree. I think I could see it making like number 3 or 4.
Yeah, I don't know that it'll top Kingsman.
No, I don't think so. I think it might just squeak past SpongeBob.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good one. It'll fight with SpongeBob, I think.
Yeah. So also you have coming out The Duff, which is a comedy about a high school senior instigating a social pecking order revolution after finding out that she has been labeled the Duff, which stands for Designated Ugly Fat Friend.
Yeah, and we were talking before we started the podcast, and I thought it was the chick from Napoleon Dynamite, and it's Anne from Arrested Development, who also kind of plays the same role as the girlfriend from Napoleon Dynamite. So I got confused, but
and I thought it was Hilary Duff, but I was way off base.
No, it's not.
I don't think that'll make the top 5. What about you?
No.
Okay. Also not making the top 5 next week, McFarland USA, which is a Kevin Costner flick though, but oh, you know what? No, I know this one. This is a Disney one. This could actually squeak in the top 5.
Yeah, you might have jumped the gun on that one.
Yeah.
Costner.
Damn it.
Disney.
I totally made myself sound like an asshole. Okay. Yeah, it's about a cross-country coach in a small California town transforming a team of athletes into championship contenders.
Although it's going to either have to bump SpongeBob or
I think
American Sniper if we're calling Hot Tub Time Machine the winner of the week.
That's a good point.
It could do better than Hot Tub Time Machine, maybe, but
it is a Disney flick, so
yeah,
that you never know. I don't remember how did $1 Million Arm do because I think it compares to that.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Other than
me either, and I don't feel like looking it up. So we'll find out next week. Next, you have Wild Tales, which is a story about love, deception, the return of the past, a tragedy, or even the violence contained in everyday detail. Appear themselves to push them towards the abyss into undeniable pleasure of losing control. I got lost in that description. I don't even know if that was a complete sentence, but that's what's written here. So, not making the top 5 in my opinion. Next you have Gloria, which is a biography drama. A rebellious and controversial Mexican pop icon becomes a huge success with her style and catchy songs, but a larger than life scandal will rock her world entirely.
That's fun.
Yeah, and
it's 2 hours, 7 minutes.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And Wild Tales is 2 hours. McFarland USA is 2 hours and 8 minutes. The Duff doesn't list its time, so I don't know if that's good or bad. And then Hot Tub Time Machine's only an hour and a half, which is good. in my opinion. McFarlane USA right now, 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. Wild Tales of 92. The rest do not have ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. So let's get on to what Ben would usually do, but I'm going to do it since he's not here yet. Let's do the Blu-ray and DVD releases. 1, 2, 3 of these movies have pretty decent Oscar nominations, which makes sense. So these movies will be coming out Tuesday, February 17th. So if you're listening to this podcast after that, you can go to your local small business store and support the small businesses and buy it there. So first you have Birdman, which we reviewed 2 weeks ago. 35.1 million at the box office, has a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, 83% from the audience. If you want to hear our reviews of that, just go back to episode 4 of the podcast. Just listen to all of them. You'll find it. Next you have Dumb and Dumber 2, 86.1 million at the box office, so a pretty good take there. Oh, by the way, Birdman, buy, rent, Netflix, pass, what are you doing?
I've already seen it, so I'll see it when if it comes on HBO or something like that. But
would you buy it?
I would think about it, but
yeah.
I don't buy that many movies anymore, for being honest.
Yeah, if I was the buying movie type, I would buy it. So I'll label it.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. Yeah,
I'll label it a buy. Yeah,
I would recommend going and seeing it.
I think we both gave it 8.25, something along those lines.
That's what I gave it.
Yeah. Dumb and Dumber 2, 86.1. Like I said, 29% from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes, 29 from the critics, 42 from the audience. I guess I will give it I haven't seen it. I'm gonna give it a cable television watch. So I'm not gonna.
Yeah. For me, it's going to come out. I would think that this is HBO bait, so
yeah.
I think I'll wait for HBO to get it, and then I'll watch it when it's on HBO. I don't plan to pay to watch it. I heard it was poor.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't lie. Next is The Interview, 6.1 take at the box office. It's already on Netflix. So
what the hell's going on with this movie?
It's like releasing on something new every week.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. 53 from the audience and critics. I'll give it a Netflix since that's where it's currently.
It's already on Netflix.
That's where it's watchable. St. Vincent is 43.9 million, 77% from the critics, 80 from the audience. I think Ben and Steve, I didn't get a chance to watch it, but Ben and Steve both did, so I think they're going to talk about that later when we do our Oscar talk. I'll give it a rent though.
Okay, good. Are we going to talk about it when we do Oscar talk?
I guess, yeah. I guess you can save your opinion on it. But I didn't watch it, so I'll give it a rent. Then you have The Theory of Everything, which we reviewed last week. So you can listen to last week's podcast for that, nextlevelradioonline.com or iTunes. 30.6 million at the box office, 79% for the critics, 85% for the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm going to give that one a rent as well. A rent to like a Netflix. Because I've already seen it, so I'd watch it again on Netflix. I don't know if I'd buy it.
No, I don't think so. I don't think I would watch it that many times, but
I'll buy it.
Watching again.
Yeah, I'll buy it maybe in like 5 years when it's in that like $10 bin.
Yeah, maybe.
At your local, small business. But yeah, so that does it for box office and DVD stuff. So we'll be right back with Nick Clifford.
Hey there, this is Jimmy Simpson, star of Half the Content on Netflix, and you are listening to Next Level Radio.
All right, now we are joined by a special guest. He's made appearances on Super Fun Night, The Big Bang Theory, and Couples, along with many other TV shows and movies. You can also see him in the critically acclaimed short film The Opportunist, and now you can watch him play Andy Wednesdays on VH1's new hit show Hindsight. Joining us on the Next Level Hotline, please welcome to the podcast Nick Clifford. Nick, how's it going?
It's good, guys. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so not everyone may realize, actually, that VH1 offers a scripted series like Hindsight. I know up until a little while ago, I didn't even realize they were doing scripted television. So for anyone who hasn't seen the show or even know that VH1 is doing scripted television, tell us a little bit about the show and your character, Andy.
Okay, so Hindsight is basically the story of a girl named Becca who basically we started with her when she's in her 40s and she's about to marry an into her second marriage, and she basically feels a little bit like she's settling, and her life is kind of, gone on a particular path, and she's not crazy about it, and she gets the opportunity to travel back in time 20 years to 1995, which joins her on the day of her first wedding, and basically she decides to kind of redo her life a little bit and make different choices. And I play Andy, who is the childhood best friend of Becca, who, when we first joined her, when she was 40, she was about to marry Andy, and they were sort of kind of settling together. And when we meet her in 1995, when she travels back in time, she basically has no real relationship with Andy other than close friends, but in her mind, she's basically was just about to marry him. And so when she re-meets him again in 1995, there's a spark there because they're both young again, and they haven't really lived through this long and, traumatic life full of, mistakes and bad choices. And so they kind of get a second shot at possibly meeting earlier on in life. But as it always goes, the more decisions that she makes, the further away she moves from her future that she knew, and the more things start to kind of get twisted, and drama ensues.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun drama. And speaking of the fun,
yeah, we kind of, I feel like we kind of we try and push the envelope on all of the different places where drama could occur. So.
yeah. And growing up in the '90s, I know myself. A lot of the '90s references that you guys have in the show. You mentioned that she travels back in time to 1995. A lot of those '90s references are great, man. Are there any that really bring back some nostalgic memories, maybe for you, or any references that you might hope that the show could reference in the future?
I mean, I think that the one thing that has really been great for everyone, and I've definitely gotten hooked on it too, is just how big of a role music plays in kind of taking you back to the 90s and kind of reminding you of who you were. In the pilot, the first cue to kind of show us that we're in 95 is Ace of Base, plays.
Solid sign, yeah.
I think for me and for everybody, when you hear that song, you're just like, oh my God, I'm back in that moment.
95.
And also I love how, all the words. Like, there's no question. You haven't even listened to that song in 20 years, but you know every single word to it. So, that's been really fun. Andy as a character is, he's a bit of a square. He sort of hasn't quite come out of his shell yet. And I think part of the show is exploring him coming out of his shell and sort of taking charge of his life a little bit more. But, in terms of the fashion, which is the other thing that I think a lot of people have really loved about the show, I've never really been so in love with my character's fashion. He kind of wears oversized Wrangler jeans and, rugby shirts, and everything is really unbreathable and hot and sticky and sweaty. So it's sort of it was never, I never really found the clothes to be something that kind of transplanted me to a fun time in the 90s, but I remember wearing everything that Andy was wearing, and so did everybody on set too. I would come out of my trailer and walk the set, and people would see what I was wearing, and everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, I have that shirt. I remember that shirt." So that was fun.
Back at the time of fanny packs.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't quite featured a fanny pack on the show, but I feel like they will definitely make an appearance.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, a 90s show. But I mean, you mentioned the music. I mean, that's kind of the benefit of having a VH1 show is with music. I mean, I don't know that you get that kind of music, background of music involvement in the show if it's not on VH1.
I totally agree. I think a lot of people have sort of, when people hear that this is a scripted drama on VH1, like you said, a lot of people are sort of like, really? Like VH1 does scripted shows? I thought they were just like reality TV.
Pop-up video.
And I think that we're really trying to kind of change, or maybe add to the demographics that go to VH1 for content, and I think that the show is doing a really great job of kind of turning people on to VH1 for more than just, their current programming. And but the music always kind of makes sense for people. I think when people think of a nostalgic 90s show on VH1, and they start to think about the music and the fashion, I think the show starts to make more and more sense of why it's on VH1. But at the same time, it's a fun show because I think we start out in this sort of fun, nostalgic place. But really the 90s is not a gimmick for the show. You know, it really is just a setting.
Right.
And the show, I think, very quickly moves to try and explore, you know, that the real kind of the real sort of struggle with, if you knew your future, you know, what would you do? How would you change it? Would you change anything? Would you change everything? And then the 90s just kind of becomes like a nice backdrop for it, instead of it being the point of the show to just kind of be a gimmicky 90s reference show. Absolutely. Which I'm really glad that we kind of established that setting and then moved beyond just being about revisiting the 90s.
Yeah, and I mean, it's getting good reviews. I know on Rotten Tomatoes it has a 94% from the audience, so that's always a good thing to see. And I mean, yeah. I was honestly a little caught off guard and surprised by it. I really enjoyed it. I thought maybe it was going to be like a chick type of show, to use the term loosely. To use a technical term. But no, it's
we all know what you mean.
It is actually really entertaining. And yeah, it might be a little more female aimed demographically, but I really think everybody can enjoy it, and especially, like, you know, men will watch this show with their girlfriends or wives or sisters or whatever have you. You know, like people watch. I get sucked into American Idol and all those kind of shows. I think this show is more entertaining than something like that. I don't know if I'd be like tweeting about it if I were a single man in my 30s, but no, it's definitely a very entertaining show. I was caught off guard by it for sure.
Yeah, it's been really nice. I mean, seeing the response that we've gotten, even from, you know, publications like Rolling Stone and New York Times, I mean, being able to see that you know, the mainstream press is reaching out and trying to let us know that the show is great. It's such a great feeling. And, you know, it's always true when you work on a project. You're always working in a vacuum, and you never really know, like, are people going to respond to it the way we're responding to it as we're making it? Because, you know, you're caught up in the moment, and it's been really wonderful to see people kind of appreciate this trip down memory lane, and also kind of appreciate a show that I think kind of takes a lot of the sort of cliched love triangle situations that you might have on a show like this, and really try and turn them on their head and try something new, and especially, you know, play with expectations that, you know, we might have as to who's going to end up together, and really try and make the decisions that the characters make much more real and much more grounded in, you know, kind of true life drama, rather than going simply for the kind of glossy, gimmicky perspective on sort of young growing up in New York City.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you know, like you said, the whole, at least in the beginning of the show and obviously throughout, but the whole premise is, you know, that whole idea of hindsight. You know, if you could go back and change something, would you? And, you know, would you, you know, take that risk? Have there been any times similar to that in the like, you know, how the show is, where you yourself, just in personal life, really wondered, like, oh, what would have happened if you made, you know, a different decision, like went to a different college or drove a different car or something like that?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because you kind of look at your life and you see these moments where, you know, you define something really huge for your kind of your personal life story, like so quickly, and then suddenly that's just a part of your life, like where you go to college or, you know, where you grow up. For me, I think a huge one that would have been very different is like the first ever experience I had with acting was I was 7 years old, and I got pulled into a casting call for a Paul Newman film just out of my school. They were doing open casting, and I got really far, so much so that I was able to read with Paul Newman and kind of, you know, get down to some of the last few kids on the show, on the film, and they ended up going with somebody else, and that was the best decision ever, because the next thing that happened for us was my dad got a job transfer to Brussels in Belgium, and we moved our whole family out to Europe, and I grew up for 6 years in Europe. And, you know, if I'd gotten that film, and if I'd sort of if I'd you know, maybe had a bit of a chance to kind of taste the acting bug much earlier, you know, probably wouldn't have gone to Europe, probably wouldn't have, you know, had the life story that I had. And I'm really grateful that I had the life that I've had. But you know, if I look back on that moment, I think it would, you know, if I hadn't gone to Europe, I think it would have been a profoundly different world that I'd be living in for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to look at it that way, so you don't live with regrets. I mean, that's obviously not what's going on in the show for the main character. But yeah, no, that's good. The only thing you might regret is, you know, something you ate earlier in the day or something like that. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nick Clifford is kind enough to join us on the on the Showcast, star of the new VH1 show, Hindsight. And Nick, we did a little bit of research into the personal life here, and we got that you are a bit of a foodie, which of course you are, coming up in Europe. Now that we found out you grew up in Europe, there's plenty of places to eat. So
Yeah.
are you into finding new places to eat? I guess, or are you kind of entrenched in new ways? I know you have an Instagram account.
Man, no way. Like I always try and find something new. I mean, LA is an amazing place to live.
Absolutely.
And I live on the east side, and there's always a great new restaurant opening up, and I feel like LA and also Atlanta, where we shot the series, just has a lot of, upstart young chefs trying to make new restaurants and new concepts, and I always love exploring those. Like first few jobs I ever had when I was in college was working in restaurants, and I got a chance to work inside the kitchen as a appetizers and dessert chef at one of these really nice French restaurants, and that was kind of the first real exposure to cooking that I got. And I think more than anything else, it just gave me the confidence to kind of try new cooking techniques, try new restaurants, just really be excited to explore new stuff. And also growing up in Europe, where everything is so different and so new, you kind of lose that fear of trying new things, and you just want to expose yourself to everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're out here in Philadelphia. I know we're known for being a pretty good food city. Have you ever been out here? Tried anything out here?
Yeah. I love Philadelphia.
Yeah, we got a couple.
I had a lot of friends that went to the University of Pennsylvania, and visiting was always such a great time. It's a great city.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a favorite city for restaurants that you have picked out? I guess we can choose all over the world now that we know that your background.
Oh man, it's like if I wanted to go somewhere right now and eat great food, I would, the easy choice is to go to where I grew up, which is New York City. But honestly, like Atlanta was an amazing discovery of a new city that was trying to,
really,
to kind of push the limits, because I think what we were sort of finding, because we spent a lot of time together as a cast. Everyone is so close on the cast, and so we would use every opportunity to go out and have a great meal or just have a social a gathering somewhere. And what's great about Atlanta is that I think the property values are a little bit more affordable to kind of pick a kitchen space and sort of create a new restaurant. So there's a lot of guys who have flagship restaurants elsewhere in the country that are trying new things in Atlanta, and there was some really good stuff down there. We had a great time.
Is it a lot of like comfort food, or does it kind of
actually
expand?
I would say we almost ate no true Southern cooking.
Wow.
A lot of it was more just kind of high-end, new American, or sort of some fusion cuisine. We kind of tried to avoid the Southern cooking mostly because if we didn't, we would be ballooning up to like 300 pounds because we're eating biscuits and gravy every morning. So you try not to weigh yourself down too much when the camera's on you all the time. But it's all over the place. I mean, you can get an amazing Southern meal down there for sure. But I was really intrigued by some of the newer restaurants that felt like they could be in LA or New York, but just ended up being in Atlanta.
I was gonna say that's always the struggle for me is not getting a stomach. I love to eat, but
yeah, totally. You have to kind of decide what do you value more. Are you going to go for that meal, or are you going to dread the next morning where you wake up full of regret for how many servings of fried chicken you had?
Going back to Hindsight, talk about your Hindsight. Do you ever watch any of those shows on the? I think it's usually on Travel Channel, where they travel all over the place and go to all those different restaurants and stuff. Are you real into those shows then?
Oh yeah. I mean, I actually watched a lot of those that had episodes that took place in Atlanta to try and find some good ideas for where to eat and what to do. Because the reality is, when you're in a different city and you're shooting a television show, unless you are like Laura or Sarah, or two leads on the show who are kind of swamped every single day, you're kind of trading off days on and days off. And on those days off, I mean, you have nothing to do, so you're desperate to kind of find stuff. And actually the girl who plays Melanie on the show, Jessie Hodges, and I always had the same schedule. So we were always off when one of us was off, we were both off. So we just had some really fun times kind of finding, new and interesting things to do. But, like watching Anthony Bourdain's, like, No Reservations. They had a good episode on Atlanta, and a couple of other good ones that kind of found some hidden spots for us to try.
Yeah, I think I saw one. It was about a restaurant right across from Georgia Tech, I think it was. I know I saw one episode of one of those shows where literally an entire hour about hot dogs. Like, I was overwhelmed, to say the least.
That was the stuff we had to stay away from.
Yeah.
I couldn't be, if I was watching Man versus Food, I'd be like, you know what, all of these are off the menu.
I don't know how he's alive still, to be honest.
I don't know. I think they had to cancel the show, I think, because he got, like, really sick.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. I feel like they were, like, I think he did one of the episodes, he, like, ate at the Heart Attack Cafe, which is a cafe in Vegas that, like, someone actually has had a heart attack from eating their burgers.
Oh, it's my restaurant.
Yeah. That's a great selling point.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're honest. Like, you know what you're getting into.
So we are about to go over our last two Oscar reviews in just a few minutes. We're going to be talking about Boyhood and Selma this week, but we've already talked about the other 6 Oscar nominations. Have you been paying attention to the Oscars at all, or are you into movies?
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a favorite pick for Best Picture?
I feel like I've seen so many good movies this year, and I think that a lot of them, like, to me, some of my favorites, like Whiplash, Foxcatcher, and Birdman, were all just extraordinary films. But I feel like if I had to pick a film that really kind of captured the essence of, like, what makes film great, and I think what kind of is deserving of a Best Picture, I really feel like might as well goes for Boyhood, because it was such a complete experience. It was, it used the medium of filmmaking and time in such an extraordinary way, but it was such a real and small story that you could connect to. So that movie was just brilliant. And I've always loved Linklater's work, but I think that this one kind of captured some of the magic of what his, Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, what made those films great, but he kind of put it all in one film. That was, that there was a kind of, full meal. And I just love that film so much.
Yeah, it's definitely unique for sure. It's a tad long, but if you have 2 hours and 45 minutes, it's a good watch.
I kind of feel like, I'm glad, if you're shooting for 12 years, you might as well make a like, if you had made a 90-minute movie, I'd be like, really, dude? Like, you had 12 years and you only got 90 minutes?
That's a good point.
You do seem to have a popular opinion amongst critics as well. Do you have an off the grid, maybe one that isn't nominated for the Oscars, that you have maybe just a favorite movie, not necessarily a critically acclaimed type Oscar movie?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to rack my brain for something. But some of my favorite movies, I love French film, and I love French filmmakers, mainly because I grew up around a lot of French film, but one of my favorite movies of all time that I always come back to is Leon the Professional, that one with Jean Reno and Natalie Portman when she was really young.
Yeah.
Luc Besson directed it, and that movie, I just love that movie. And I also really loved Under the Skin. I hope people saw that movie, the Scarlett Johansson film.
Scarlett Jo, yeah.
That was an incredible movie.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that one. I love...
She plays like an alien that's like picking up hitchhikers in Scotland. It's like such a strange film.
It's so bizarre.
So bizarre.
I do love...
It's like taking a weird drug when you're watching it. I'm watching, but I can't not watch it.
I do love Jean Reno, though. He's awesome. I remember...
Yeah,
I always used to watch Ronin when I was younger. I probably shouldn't have at the age I was watching it at, but...
Yeah, totally. Oh, they had such good car chases in that?
Oh,
Dude,
yeah.
I feel like that was the first time that I realized that Audi was like an awesome car. I feel like that's what they drive.
All right, well, be sure to watch Nick every Wednesday at 10/9 Central on VH1's Hindsight, and make sure you follow him on Twitter and Instagram at the Nick Clifford. Nick, thanks again for joining us, man. We had a really good time having you on.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? This is Joe Minoso from NBC Chicago Fire. You're listening to Next Level Radio.
No, Kelly Clarkson!
Hey, I made it.
I should have had Welcome Back Cotter prepared.
Yeah, stupid internet went out on me. Oh, well.
We won't mention the name of the company.
No. It depends on how you look at it. I mean, it could rhyme with Showcast.
Right.
Or Texfinity. I don't know. Whatever way you want to look at it.
Texfinity. Yeah, I like Texfinity. I'll go with that one.
But, I mean, you and Steve had the show under control while I was gone. So
you can call it that. Yeah, I mean, he hasn't heard it yet. So,
hey, I wanted to mention real quick since I wasn't in the first part of it. Kingsman was fucking awesome.
Was it?
Yeah, I got to see the screening of it last week.
I really want to see it. Yeah, I really want to see it.
It was fucking amazing. Samuel L. Jackson as the villain is awesome.
The maze balls.
And, yeah, also during the DVD releases, notable release that you didn't really miss because we don't really cover them that often, but Game of Thrones Season 4 comes out this week as well.
Yeah, I saw it there. I skipped over it.
So I do TV seasons every once in a while. Game of Thrones, I figure, is one worth mentioning.
Yeah.
So
it's a
HBO season.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have HBO, you don't need to buy it.
That's true, but I like them just because HBO is good about it because they have the Blu-ray, DVD, and digital copy all in one. So it's so you're getting 3 for 1. So I don't mind buying it.
Yeah. Well, it's a big week this week. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it was a big pre-order week for me through Amazon. I got Game of Thrones, St. Vincent, and Whiplash, and Birdman all this week.
Wow.
So, yeah, big week.
Somebody's getting ready for the Oscars.
Yes, I am.
Speaking of which, no, I'm just kidding. We have next level.
Yeah, let's move things forward because we have a lot to do with the our Oscar reviews and predictions. So let's kick things off and let's get the next level news.
This is Next Level News.
All right, starting off. Mention this one since you had mentioned 50 Shades of Grey opening this weekend earlier on in the show. 50 Shades of Grey already pirated nearly 300,000 downloads on opening weekend. Pirates showed a passion for 50 Shades of Grey with copies of the erotic thriller downloaded almost 300,000 times worldwide within 3 days of the film's U.S. theatrical release.
That's because people want to watch it at home. They don't want to watch it in a theater.
Well, because you can't masturbate in a theater.
Well, you can. You probably just get arrested for it.
That's true. I personally, I don't ever want to see this movie. I don't care if it's downloaded or seen in a theater. I don't ever want to see it.
Yeah, I'm not interested. But
no.
Yeah, I'll see if I can squeeze my way out of that one. I'm sure I can.
Moving on, once again, James Franco to star in Hulu's Stephen King series 11/22/63.
Heard about this. I have no idea what that is. I was not alive on 11/22/63.
Well, the story of 11/22/63 is a Epping, who is a high school English teacher played by Franco, travels back in time to prevent President John F. Kennedy from being shot, but the mission is threatened by Lee Harvey Oswald as Epping falls sway to the past, which resists change. From what I understand, it's actually a really good book. So I'm looking forward to what this might bring.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like your usual Stephen King. But I'm only going off of the movie It, which I saw as a child and scarred me for life from clowns. So, yeah, I kind of...
I liked It. I love that movie. I still watch that movie.
They're redoing it, aren't they?
They're redoing that, and the other Stephen King that I really, really liked is The Stand, which they're redoing as well. So,
was The Strain his as well?
No, that is...
Guillermo del Toro directs it.
Yeah, and you know what? I have the book on my Kindle, and I forget who it is, but that's not...
not King.
It's not Stephen King, no. Okay. Moving on, sticking with TV, The Walking Dead's Emily Kinney, who was recently... never mind. Joins The Flash as Bug-Eye Bandit. The villain roster of CW's The Flash continues to grow as Punked Images, which is where the story stems from, has learned that former Walking Dead star Emily Kinney has joined the cast as Bug-Eye Bandit. Originally
playing a bad guy?
Yeah, well, I guess it's sort of a bad guy. Originally appearing as an Atom villain, Bug-Eye Bandit was created by Gardner Fox and Gil Kane in 1966, where he controlled insects to do his bidding. So this is actually a male character, but they're putting a little twist on it, and it's going to be played by a female in this one.
Man.
Yeah, I guess the DC version of Ant-Man.
That's what it sounds like.
So, but Emily Kinney's a pretty big get for this character. So I'm assuming this isn't just going to be a one-off for this character. This character's probably going to be sticking around in the Flash for a while.
Is she still in The Walking Dead?
She is not.
Okay.
And you can only assume what that means when it comes to The Walking Dead.
That she probably transported to outer space.
Yeah,
to get away from the zombies.
Abducted by aliens, exactly.
Yeah. Well, like Steve and I told you what happened on last night's Walking Dead episode.
Intense.
Well, you said it was a mass murder-suicide.
Murder-suicide, yeah, and now they're all zombies, and now the show just follows them as zombies. So it's a lot less interesting.
Yeah, well, that happens.
Still brings in the ratings, though.
Yeah. These next two stories are the last two stories, and they, at this point of us recording the podcast, they seem kind of old because they're almost a week old, but they did happen after we recorded last week's podcast, so they are worth mentioning as recent news for us. First off, Jon Stewart is leaving The Daily Show. Jon Stewart said Tuesday he would step down from Comedy Central's The Daily Show after 17 years. Living a new hole in the ranks of late-night television and setting up another challenge for the Viacom-owned cable network.
This has been a year of shakeups in the late-night and, news, not news, but entertaining talk show industry.
Yeah, certainly has. I mean, Colbert left The Colbert Report. Craig Ferguson, who I actually just saw do stand-up this week and was hysterical, left The Late Late Show. James Corden is going to be taking that over. Colbert's moving on to The Late Show, replacing David Letterman. And now Jon Stewart leaving The Tonight Show, or The Daily Show. So another big shake-up. And that's one I'm going to miss because I love Jon Stewart. And last but not least, this is one we could probably talk about for an hour, but we don't have the time. Spider-Man is returning to Marvel.
I heard about this.
New movie coming in 2017.
Civil War.
Yeah, it's going to be the first appearance in the Marvel Universe, which is going to be pretty awesome.
Do you follow Robert Downey Jr. on Facebook?
I do. You're probably thinking of the same thing I am. He
posts stuff all the time.
He posted a couple pictures the other day of what could be causing civil war between Tony and Captain America.
He's done a few of them. The ones he posted the other day though were really good. One of them, I haven't pulled up. Do you haven't pulled up?
Yeah, so do I. One of them is Captain America telling Robert Downey Jr. Cumberbatch was a better Sherlock.
Yeah, I like that one.
And the other one is Captain America says, "I don't know if you're aware of the fact that bald eagles are born every time I have sex." And Robert Downey Jr. turns and says, "No wonder they're endangered."
Yeah, that's good. And the other one is Downey Jr. saying it's pronounced GIF, like with a J instead of GIF. What's your personal? I pronounce it GIF.
I say GIF.
Yeah, I say GIF too. I don't.
You're in the minority.
You're an idiot.
Well, GIF is already a thing. It's a peanut butter, and it's spelled the other way.
It's spelled differently.
Exactly.
What if you made it GIF of GIF? Isn't it Jiffy peanut butter, by the way?
I don't know. Either way, it sounds like it. No, that's Jiffy Pop. That's popcorn.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, mom's like, you choose Jif.
But if you go with Jif peanut butter, it's spelled with a J. Therefore, G is GIF.
Yeah, that was my point. I was just trying to prove him wrong.
Yeah. There you go.
Thanks.
We'll post a couple of these Captain America, Iron Man ones on.
Yeah, we can share it
on the Next Level Facebook page too. So, but that is going to wrap it up for Next Level News. Before we kick things off for these Oscar reviews, I think I know the answer to this. I think, Steve, you haven't had a chance to see it yet, and Adam, you're still in the middle of it. But Saturday Night Live had its 40th anniversary last night. 3.5 hours worth of television, and about 3 hours of it was awesome.
Yeah.
So we won't go into too much detail since you guys haven't seen it yet.
Minus commercials.
I only really had 2 complaints about the entire thing.
I already know what they are.
Well, because I posted about them very openly on Facebook.
Yeah, Ben doesn't live tweet; he live Facebook posts.
Hey, I'm live social media something. So
Well, you got to live tweet the Oscars.
Oh, we will. Yeah.
Make sure you do that.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned earlier on in the show our Twitter handles as well. So, and we'll reiterate them towards the end of the show at the same time. But yeah, my two biggest complaints: one, there wasn't enough Eddie Murphy, and two, the fact that Kanye West and Miley Cyrus were even there. Were big.
I'm okay with Kanye West being present. Miley Cyrus though has no business.
Well, you have 40 years of television in that show, and they scraped up so many different stars from the show to come back and do something.
You go from Paul McCartney to
Kanye
Cyrus.
Or to Miley Cyrus, yeah.
It's not a good transition.
And then Kanye West after that as a musical guest, and it looked like poor college performance art.
You could at least got Rihanna and did that song that they do together. Steve will know what it's called. I forget.
The one where Kanye made Paul McCartney famous?
Yes.
5-4 seconds?
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, that Paul McCartney, man, he's going to be famous one day.
Hopefully. A lot of people get famous by Kanye, so.
Taylor Swift. Case in point.
Except Kanye. Well, he's famous, but for being a douche.
He used, if you ever go back and listen to his first two albums, they're actually really good. I guess his new stuff's good too. But
I never win any of these arguments. I think he's one of the best there is. But I never win any of these because people hate him so much.
They hate his personality.
Yeah, exactly.
Like how he's become. He didn't used to be.
Oh,
Jesus.
Yeah, he
did. No, not when he came out the College Dropout.
Yeah, he had big problems. If we want to go into the Kanye West biopic, he had big problems with his label early because he thought he was the greatest thing there ever was.
He still does.
Exactly.
I mean, he is pretty big at least.
Look, I'm not saying the man is not talented. He just needs to shut up. Stick to singing, and then don't say a goddamn thing afterwards.
There was a while there where he literally couldn't talk because he had a wire going through his jaw.
That's how he got famous.
Yeah, that's when he first came out. His first single was Through the Wire that he recorded with his jaw wired shut.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We used a clip of that from Primetime Fantasy Football.
Yeah, we did. Through the Fantasy Football Wire.
I mean, it's pretty bad.
It on here somewhere.
It's pretty bad when it's gotten to the point where I'd turn to him and say, you know what? I'd rather hear your wife talk than you.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Yeah, me neither. I want to hear either one of them talk.
But moving on from... By the way, back to the SNL thing. I was so glad they did a Jeopardy.
Oh my God, it was awesome.
Really hoping, and I'm glad they had Norm Macdonald come out as...
Turd Ferguson?
Well, yeah, Burt Reynolds, Turd Ferguson. But I was really hoping, because I saw in the monologue, I think it was, Tom Hanks came out, and I was really hoping Tom Hanks was going to show up on the Jeopardy, because I don't know if you've ever seen the Jeopardy he was in.
I have.
But he is himself on that Jeopardy. It was probably from like 10 years ago. He just acts like a complete idiot. It's so funny. He eats, doesn't he eat the microphone or something like that?
I know at one point he's got his hand stuck in a pickle jar.
That's right. Everybody's like, just let go of the pickle.
But I want a pickle.
It's so good. If you get a chance, look that up. But yeah, I was hoping he'd be up. But I mean, to have Jeopardy, that's probably my favorite skit spanning over the years.
Yeah, there were two things I was really looking forward to. One of them was definitely Celebrity Jeopardy. And the other one, I wanted to see another appearance by Stefan.
And you did.
I did. It was a little too short, but it was still funny.
And Ed Norton.
Because Ed Norton was doing an impression of Stefan, and then Bill Hader came out as Stefan to correct his impression.
And I was going to ask you, who's your favorite Weekend Update person that they've had on there?
I'd have to say... You know what? I was a big fan of Tina and Jimmy, and then Amy Poehler took over for Jimmy, and I just loved Tina and Amy. I think that's probably my favorite pairing of.
I think if I were alive at the time, or I assume I wasn't alive, but Chevy Chase probably would have been my favorite. Because I've seen clips of him doing it, and he's obviously fantastic.
Chevy and Jane together were really funny too.
Yeah. I still am a huge fan of Norm Macdonald when he used to do it. But Tina and Jimmy are really good too.
Yeah.
Steve, do you have a preference?
Yeah, I like Norm Macdonald, just because he did like dry humor.
Yeah.
I don't like when he does jokes that aren't funny and then just waits for people to awkwardly laugh. But a lot of his jokes are good anyway, and they make people laugh. So
yeah.
So, all right, then let us move on and do our. We have 2 more predictions to do. We have to go through, or not predictions, reviews. We have to do Boyhood and Selma. Do we have a preference which one we want to do first?
No, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Jesus, that was loud on my end.
It wasn't on my end, so.
Yeah, can we cut that?
No.
Or at least turn it down.
It is down.
Yeah, but it was still really loud on our ends.
I don't hear Steve complaining.
Which means we have to scream to talk over it. All right, we can start with Boyhood then. And we'll go from there. I'll let you guys kick this one off.
okay, well I'll go first then.
Story, are we going synopsis?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Do you have it up, or do you mean to do it?
No, I don't have it up.
I'll find it. Oh, here we go. The life of a young man Mason from age 5 to 18. You're welcome,
Bam.
America.
That's bad math, because technically it should be 6 to 18, shouldn't it? I thought it was only 12 years.
Yeah, I think they filmed it for 12 years, but,
Whatever.
Director Richard Linklater, written by Richard Linklater. L.R. Coltrane, is that how you say his name? He's the main character as Mason. Patricia Arquette is his mother. And that's about it. Oh, no, Ethan Hawke is his
Ethan
dad.
Hawke?
Yeah, Ethan Hawke's his dad. For me, it was really long, which is, it's 165 minutes, which is 2:45. But I guess when you record for 12 years, that's what you're going to get, which is a little bit what Nick Clifford alluded to when we talked to him. But it kind of, I saw this one second, I think, in the order. I saw them in a bit of a different order. And I was glad that I saw it so early, just because it kind of grew on me. First of all, I should say that I think the concept is awesome to film a movie in parts over 12 years. If you're going to do something that is about childhood, then you're going to do it. You do it like this, where it's the same kid over 12 years, and you see that actual kid grow up instead of using multiple actors. I think that's a great concept for a movie. So I think that's really cool. And then, it can get boring because nothing particularly happens because it's about a kid's childhood. So that's kind of the downfall of it. But like I said, I think that the concept got me from the start, and I think that the execution actually started to grow on me the more I thought about it, and the more that I thought about how the movie went and things like that. So my grade would be 7, and since I'm going first, I get to say what we're ranking. So I say 7 childhoods.
7 childhoods. I'm kind of on board with you. It is like such an awesome. I mean, now it's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. So as we mentioned a little bit earlier when we were talking to Nick Clifford, but in my opinion, he was right though. I mean, if you're gonna do a movie where you film 12 years, you might as well make it long. But it's probably about 2 years too long, the way that goes, because you could have cut. Once movies get past like 2.5 hours, like you said, Steve, it does get boring at times because it's about a kid's life. But when you were at like hour 2.5 roughly, and you look and see what he looked like then, and you think back like 2 hours ago, literally the same exact person looked completely different. It was really a weird thing to think about because it's nothing like you've ever seen in a movie before, because it's never been done before. So, I think his sister also is the director's daughter.
Yeah, I should have said that. That's actually kind of a cool that that Linklater made his daughter a star of the movie as well.
Yeah, she played Samantha.
She kind of grows up at the same time that the boy does.
Yeah, and obviously Patricia Arquette, the mom's character, has terrible taste in men, other than maybe Ethan Hawke throughout that movie. But yeah, I enjoyed it. We'll get to our predictions later as far as Best Picture and everything. I think it won the Golden Globe, right, for Best Drama?
Yeah.
Motion Picture. But yeah, the concept is fantastic. The overall, like, plot and everything, Just wasn't crazy entertaining, but it's still definitely something I would recommend seeing. I am going to give it 7 3/4 childhoods. So 7.75.
7.75. And I have to say the same thing. The concept of filming a movie over 12 years is really, really ingenious. It's something that's never been done before, and that's what really drew me in to want to see this movie too.
Now, if you mix this movie with 12 Years a Slave,
you get a really screwed up movie.
Yeah, that's not. They aren't quite the same 12 years.
No, no, not at all. It's definitely a coming of age story, but that's really all I found it to be. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I didn't dislike it because of that, but to me, that was really all the movie was. So it didn't really appeal to me. Like, there was no real big thing about it other than the fact it is a coming of age. But filming it over 12 years as they did, it was almost like a time lapse film rather than time lapse photography,
right?
Which I thought was really, really cool. And I think it's risky to do something like that because they really took a chance to do this. Because 6 years into this, it could have been. You could have wasted the last 6 years realizing this movie wasn't coming around the way it was.
So and the kid wasn't under contract. The kid could have quit whenever he wanted to. So kind of dap to him for sticking with the movie too, being a teenager growing up.
I mean, God forbid, like, what if something happened to one of the cast members? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why it was such a big risk. And I'd like to turn around and say that you might start seeing more people do stuff like this, but I don't think you will just because of how big of a risk it is.
You'll see like an absolute increase in this in about 10 years because people will start filming them now. And then 10 years from now, all these films that get completed off of this idea will be done.
I think you might start seeing something as in maybe a film that took 5 or 6 years to make. Maybe not 12. Because.
Yeah, I think 12 is that's a bold, like you said, it's a bold time frame to do it in.
It is, but you know what? It got them a Best Picture nomination, so it's, it was worth the risk for them.
Yeah, I mean, the acting obviously isn't fantastic, but, it's not gimmicky, but it almost felt gimmicky the first half hour of the movie. I'm like, I was really, like, the first half hour I was pretty bored, so I'm like, is this just a gimmicky movie that it's going to be like, the only reason it's here is because it took 12 years to make? But by the end of it, you kind of realize why it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I, like you, actually gave it a 7 3/4, 7.75 for my rating. So 7 3/4 childhoods. That's what we were giving it, right? Childhoods?
Childhoods, yeah.
Okay.
Childhoods.
I couldn't remember. All right, last movie that we have to review out of the full 8, and then we will get into some predictions before we go into, or before we wrap this show up. We have Selma, in which I already have a synopsis pulled up, so I'm ahead of the game this time around. Selma pretty much is a chronicle of Martin Luther King's campaign to secure equal voting rights via an epic march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama in 1965. Starring Ava DuVernay, or that's the director.
Yeah.
Yeah. But starring David Oyelowo and Carmen...
San Diego.
No, not Carmen San. Shut up.
I think it's Ihogo?
Ihogo, yeah. So, and Oprah Winfrey. Which,
Purchased all those tomatoes.
Yeah. God. Sure. Tom Wilkinson as President Lyndon B. Johnson, and Giovanni Ribisi, who I was surprised to see show up.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we didn't say Boyhood has a was it like a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, 98 from the critics.
Critics, 84 from the audience.
Yeah. And Selma, while we're on that topic, has a 98 as well from the critics and an 87 from the audience. So right around the same as Boyhood.
Yeah.
So I'm a sucker for biopics and historical things like this. And this is another one of those movies that kind of took the same tone as 12 Years a Slave with me last year, only obviously not as
intense.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But in the sense that it's a movie I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, if it was going to be a topic that interests me, but I was really digging it. I was really into it or drawn into the story within the first half hour. I was drawn into it. and it kept my attention throughout the entire thing. I think David Oyelowo was fantastic as Martin Luther King. I mean, there were times, obviously I've never met the man in person, but there were times, sort of the same thing with Eddie Redmayne as Stephen Hawking, that you almost forget you're watching an actor portraying this person, and you think you're almost watching this person.
Sure. Yeah, interesting that he wasn't nominated for leading actor.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I'm curious because I don't think he's done anything before this. I think this is a relatively new role for him. He's done a couple bit parts in some other movies. I know. Actually, looking at it, he's actually done quite a bit.
He's in A Most Violent Year.
Interstellar. But he has a minor part in Interstellar.
Yeah, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Raisin in the Sun.
The Butler.
Jack Reacher, Lincoln. All right, he's done quite a bit. I just never really knew who he was before this
Rise
movie.
of the Planet of the Apes.
I said that one.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently he's done quite a bit, and I just never really knew who he was before this movie. So, but that's all it really takes is one movie to get you discovered.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably his first starring role then, right? I would think.
Yeah, I would think so.
He didn't star in any of those other ones, did he?
No, not that I know
he's
of.
School principal in Interstellar, so I'm not sure how big his role is there.
That's what I said.
But he plays a big role in A Most Violent Year, which kind of is along the same timeline when it came out. So,
in the movie default, he's simply listed as actor.
Yeah.
Well, that would be correct.
Yeah.
They're not wrong.
I'm trying to think of what we should give it. We discussed this last week, and we came up with some.
Well, Ben's not allowed to pick it after last week.
Well, why? Because I wanted to use black holes for Theory of Everything?
Incorrect,
well, that's
sir.
what we
that's
did.
what I picked. You wanted to use wheelchairs.
That's right, I did.
You wanted to use ALS victims.
I did not.
ALS. Oh, we should have done ice bucket challenges last week. Is what we should have done.
That's a start.
Trust me, that much thought doesn't go into what we're ranking.
Let's do bridges because a bridge plays a big role in this movie.
All right, we can do that.
Bridges of Madison County.
On a scale of 1 to 10 bridges, I'd probably give it 7.25.
7.25 bridges. Okay.
Yeah.
Steve, I'll let you go. I went second last time.
Okie doke. Yeah, I thought it was. I kind of like the history stuff as well. I'm more of a history person than anything else. So I thought that it would be interesting because, self-admittedly, I knew all about the March on Washington, but didn't know too much about this march from Selma to Montgomery about voting rights. So I was happy to see something different and kind of focus on a different portion that was obviously very important in what Martin Luther King did. And I thought they did a good job. Like you said, I thought Oyelowo was good. He did a lot of when you listen to speeches, he had that same, I don't know if twang is the word, but he kind of sounded like Martin Luther King on a certain number of those speeches, which was always, it's good to hear. And like you said, it's, at certain parts of the movie, you forget that you're watching an actor, which is good. I thought that when you said you were in in the first half hour, I thought it was a little bit slow to start, to get into it, but when it picked up pretty well, and it had some intense parts to it that were tough to watch at times. But it's I think it's a good depiction of the history of what actually happened, which is definitely necessary, and I think it's deserving of the nominee. I also think it's a really tough year for the movies, so kind of comparing it to the other movies that have been nominated. A little bit on the lower half as far as this one is concerned, and I'll give it 6.75 bridges.
Okay, I'm actually siding a little more towards Steve as far as the beginning of the movie goes. I thought early on it was kind of not boring, but it was a little slow. It was kind of all over the place. I wasn't sure exactly what direction. Obviously, I knew eventually where they would end up, but the beginning to me was a little sporadic for just a short amount of time. But like Steve said, once it kind of got into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, into the movie, it actually really picked up well and finished strong, obviously, as all these movies did. Acting was great. It really, I mean, when I honestly knew next to nothing about this march, from Selma to Montgomery. When I heard that it was about a march, I assumed it was the march on DC. And then when I saw he was in Selma, I was like, well, that's a really far march. Like, how long is that going to take? And then I realized it was about a different march. So, I think it's really important that we know history like this. I mean, speaking of bridges, what happens, on the bridge, in the movie the first time is just, like Steve said, it's tough to watch, but at the same time it's something that you gotta think about, like how human beings could have acted how they did, just, 50 years ago. And I mean, especially when you compare it to some things that happen in current events, when it comes to, blacks and whites in the news and everything, especially with law enforcement and everything like that. It's interesting to see the different path and the different way things were reacted upon on either side. Back then, it's just a completely different time frame all around, and I think it's a very important type of movie to watch. But like both of you said, it is a very tough year as far as movies go. So I mean, I don't see it as one of my favorites. It was very good and very well done. I'm going to give it 7.25 bridges. 7.25.
Alrighty. I'm just making notes of these as we go through, so I have the full listing too. Yeah, because we'll have these posted on the website before the Oscars start, so people can see what our predictions are. Even though they should be listening to the podcasts to find out.
Yes.
But we'll post them on the Facebook page as well.
Do you want to run down all of our rankings now, or all of our ratings?
I'm looking over the ratings as we've been going over, and it's pretty clear which movie we all thought was the best one.
Right.
That we saw. I mean, we were all pretty sold on Imitation Game. I mean, that's the only movie that all three of us gave at least a 9.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
That, however, does not mean that my pick for Best Picture will be
correct.
I kind of did my favorite rather than ranking what I think will win.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
I think will win to be different.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, we can go through a couple of them. I know, as far as I'm concerned, I had Imitation as my top, and my lowest ranked was actually Selma. Adam, your biggest ranked obviously was Imitation Game, and your lowest was Grand Budapest Hotel. And Steve, your lowest, you had a tie for your lowest from what I can see between Grand Budapest and Theory of Everything.
Yep.
But you had Imitation Game as your top as well. So we run the gambit. Everywhere in the middle seems to be a little different for us. So we definitely have some differences of opinions. So should we run down and make some predictions?
Sure.
For this?
Yeah.
So how we're going to do this is we're going to do 7 main categories. We're going to make predictions for Best Picture, Best Actor in a Lead Role, Actress in a Lead Role, Actor in a Supporting Role, Actress in a Supporting Role, Best Animated Picture, and Director. And then each of us is going to pick one wild card category that we can use as a tiebreaker if it comes down to that. I don't really think it's going to come down to a tiebreaker, to be honest with you. But it's all in good fun to have that tiebreaker category as well. Who wants to go first? Because I have mine already picked for everything.
Are we doing the tiebreaker categories first?
We could do the tiebreaker category first, and then we'll go through.
Okay, and I'll do my tiebreaker category first. I went visual effects, so feature film, obviously. The nominees: Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Guardians of the Galaxy, Interstellar, and X-Men: Days of Future Past. Since this is my category, I'll start things off. I am going to predict that the winner of this category for visual effects will be Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, so is that how we're doing this? We're all picking from that category?
I'm not picking that category. That was too hard.
Yeah, we all picked from the wild card category. How else would we break a tie?
So then we're going to have 3 wild card categories.
No, there's only one wild card category. We each picked one wild card category.
Yeah.
That
makes 3, right?
No, that makes 1. You picked your wild card category. I picked my wild card category.
Oh, okay.
And Ben picks his. That's what makes it a wild card.
Oh, I thought we
all
had
the same thing.
I thought we all had to pick from it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. What Steve had said too. I thought we were each picking our own, and then we're choosing a winner from that category.
Okay, I may change mine then, because that's a tough category.
No, it's too hard. My wild card, I picked music song. I picked Best Original Song. And the nominees were Everything Is Awesome from the Lego Movie, Glory from Selma, Grateful from Beyond the Lights, I'm Not Gonna Miss You from Glenn Campbell, I'll Be Me, and Lost Stars from Begin Again. For me, this was a 2-horse race, and I really like the Everything Is Awesome song from the Lego Movie. However, John Legend he wrote it and sings Glory from Selma, and he's one of my favorites of all time, so I'm going with Glory from Selma to win Best Original Song.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's a good pick, too.
By the way, I think Ben's wild card category then in this case is cheating. Cause
yeah,
that's
he slam
pretty
dunked
easy.
it.
Yeah, but hey, that's what this is, isn't it? I mean, it's...
Can I pick the same one?
No, you can't pick the same one. You already picked the hardest category.
No, I'd change that, though.
Okay. But you can't pick the same one.
You can pick
then.
You can pick the same category, but you can't pick the same winner as I do.
Oh, come on. Give me a pick.
But
I changed mine to writing, original screenplay.
All right.
The nominees for that are Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, Boyhood, Foxcatcher, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and Nightcrawler. I am going to go with Boyhood.
All right. And my category, which they all know is a slam dunk, is cinematography, in which the nominees were Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
Birdman.
Do I really, I was going to say, do I really have to read the rest of these? Grand Budapest.
Bullshit.
Grand Budapest Hotel, Ida, Mr. Turner, and Unbroken. And
Bullshit.
And obviously, my pick for that is Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance.
What happened to that boy?
That's what I was waiting for. All right, so let's run down backwards leading up to Best Picture. We're going to start with Best Director or Directing, in which the categories are Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance by Alejandro G. Inarritu. Or two, I don't know.
Inarritu.
Inarritu, that's it.
In your tutu.
In your tutu. Boyhood, directed by Richard Linklater. Foxcatcher, directed by Bennett Miller. Grand Budapest Hotel, directed by Wes Anderson. And The Imitation Game, directed by Morton Tidlam. I'm going to make my prediction first on this one. I'm actually not going the route of Birdman this time around. And I was really torn between two on this one, but I'm going to go with the one I think is a little bit more of the underdog. I'm actually going to go with Wes Anderson for Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh boy.
Okay. I'm going to go with the one that I think will actually win. And that's actually tough. It's a toss-up for me between Birdman and Boyhood. I'm going to go Birdman, though.
Okay.
Oh, this will be a point decider then, because I'm going to pick Linklater.
Oh.
For Boyhood.
Yeah, Linklater was my other one that I was really debating on.
Good for you.
See, what's making it really difficult this year is that, obviously it starts with the Golden Globes, and there's a bunch of different award ceremonies in between, like the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild and things like that. But every award ceremony that has come up between the Golden Globes to now, every category there's been a different winner for every one of them.
By the way, Linklater won Best Director in Motion Picture for the Globes.
Okay. Yes, I mean, it's really difficult to choose because there's really no clear-cut frontrunner with the exception of Birdman and cinematography, but
Right, yeah. I mean, I think, and in directing, I mean, with Birdman and Boyhood, those other ones are terrible.
Yeah, I know. I'm almost already regretting picking Wes Anderson.
No, it's been recorded. It is official.
It is official.
You picked Wes Anderson.
Watch,
he's gonna win.
I know.
Look like assholes.
Moving up towards the top with Best Animated Feature Film, and the categories were Big Hero 6, The Box Trolls, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Song of the Sea, and The Tale of Princess Kaguya.
Yeah, Kagaya. I don't know.
Yeah. So who wants to go first on this one?
I'll take the reins on this one. I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to go the Lego Movie.
Yeah.
It's not nominated.
All right, then How to Train Your Dragon 2.
I'm going to pick that one, too. I'm going to do exactly what Adam picked, but if they put the Lego Movie in, I pick that one.
Then this one is pretty much negated because we've all picked How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Everything is awesome.
So How to Train Your Dragon 2 was probably my favorite animated movie, I think, of all time at this moment, right now.
Ooh.
So the first one was my favorite animated movie, and then the second one took its place. So
just wait till the third one.
A pair of kids that grew up watching Disney movies, so
I grew up watching Disney movies.
Gonna win that one.
No.
I grew up watching Disney movies, and it's still my favorite animated movie.
Mm.
How about no, you crazy Dutch bastard?
Next category would be actress in a supporting role, with the nominees being Patricia Arquette from Boyhood, Laura Dern from Wild, Keira Knightley from The Imitation Game, Emma Stone from Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, and Meryl Streep from Into the Woods. Steve, you want to take the lead on this one?
Sure. This is actually the toughest category of the 8 that we're gonna pick for me. I think that 3 of them are equally qualified in Patricia Arquette, Keira Knightley, and Emma Stone. So I went with rooting interest and picked Emma Stone.
All right. Adam?
This is a tough one. I haven't seen Wild, so I can't speak to Laura Dern. I've seen the other ones. By the way, Patricia Arquette did win Best Supporting Actress in a Motion Picture in Golden Globes. So I'm going to go the other way. I'm actually going to go with Patricia Arquette.
What was going to be the other way?
I was going to say Keira Knightley, but I don't see it.
I agree with everything you guys have said, especially with those 3, Patricia Arquette, Keira Knightley, and Emma Stone. But I, too, also went Emma Stone with this one. So I think the next category, we're probably all in agreement.
Supporting
on this one. Yeah, supporting actor. But we'll read the nominees anyway. Robert Duvall from The Judge, Ethan Hawke from Boyhood, Edward Norton in Birdman, Mark Ruffalo from Foxcatcher, and J.K. Simmons from Whiplash. Maybe we're not in agreement on this one. I don't know. I felt really strongly about this one, though.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I can. I think out of everything that I saw, because the only movie out of all of them I did not see was Foxcatcher. And while I think Robert Duvall was absolutely fantastic, I can't go against J.K. Simmons in this. My pick is J.K. Simmons.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's close, but I didn't see The Judge. But J.K. Simmons is nominated in a supporting role when he was a lead actor. So J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, you can give this one the old trifecta. J.K. Simmons as well.
Yeah, that's what I had a feeling we were all. Just because when we were reviewing Whiplash, we were all pretty strong about how great he was in that movie.
Absolutely.
And now on to the big 3, starting with actress in a leading role. The nominees are Marion Cotillard from 2 Days, One Night, Felicity Jones in The Theory of Everything, Julianne Moore from Still Alice, Rosamund Pike from Gone Girl, and Reese Witherspoon from Wild. Now, I don't know who wants to kick this one off. Take the first bout.
This is easily the one that I am the least knowledgeable in, because I've only seen 2 out of the 5 movies. So I will have to go with what everyone else is saying and pick Julianne Moore.
I'm on Steve's boat here. I saw one of these movies. Julianne Moore did win the Golden Globe, so I'm just going to play the odds and go Julianne Moore.
All right. Well, then this is where I will be different from everyone else. By the way, mine are already written down. It's not like I'm making these as we're going. So it's.
I wrote mine down too. So
yeah, I think we've all
making them up.
I did not write mine down.
I'm actually going to go with Reese Witherspoon on this one.
Le who? The her.
Man, I wish I was set up to play clips tonight.
That's it. Actually, I think if anybody other than Julianne Moore, I think her, because Wild does look really good. I want to see.
And now, actor in a leading role. The nominees are Steve Carell from Foxcatcher, Bradley Cooper in American Sniper, Benedict Cumberbatch in The Imitation Game, Michael Keaton from Birdman, or Eddie Redmayne from The Theory of Everything. This has to be, to me, in my opinion, one of the toughest categories to predict.
Yeah, it is very tough. I have a feeling we may all pick the same one, but I could be wrong. So I am going to go ahead and go first, and I'm going to say Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything.
All right.
I'm going to root for Cumberbatch and or Keaton, and I'm going to pick Eddie Redmayne.
Let me just say, if I were voting, I would pick Cumberbatch, but that's not who I think will win.
I am going to root for Keaton or Benedict Cumberbatch, but I am actually picking Keaton on this one.
Oh. Steve, who'd you pick? I missed. I wasn't paying attention.
Eddie Redmayne.
Okay.
I think Keaton has as good a chance as anybody.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I just like the fact that it could be like a year or two down the road, we could be seeing the previews for Beetlejuice 2 starring Oscar winner Michael Keaton.
That'd be sweet.
Well, I see it as Golden Globe winner Michael Keaton.
Well, that too.
They split the Golden Globes, right? They give one for each category in acting.
Yeah, Keaton
actors.
and Redmayne.
Yeah, they split those.
Yeah, because they considered Birdman a musical or comedy.
They did.
Yeah. But everybody in this category was fantastic. I mean, there's really not a bad performance out of all of them.
I feel bad for Bradley. Well, I don't really feel bad for Bradley Cooper because he's a famous actor, and he's really good looking. But he's been nominated 3 years in a row, and he's never going to win. Poor guy.
I know, right?
Hey,
he'll catch a break.
He got to
Jenkintown. I love the guy, but he's never going to win.
He got to do something last night on SNL 40 that not a lot of people got to do. He got to make out with Betty White.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. Yeah, that was funny.
So,
yeah, I really would love for Cumberbatch to get it. Or, I mean, honestly, if any of these guys get it, I'm not going to be disappointed.
Eddie Redmayne thoroughly deserves it. I'm going to root for other guys over him. That's all.
I
wish Cumberbatch would win.
I think Eddie Redmayne is definitely deserves it, but I want this to be Keaton's year, man. That's just, I'm just rooting for Keaton, so I'm picking Keaton. Last category, and this is obviously the one with the most choices, so this will be interesting to see where we go. Best Picture, and the nominees are American Sniper, Birdman, Boyhood, Grand Budapest Hotel, Imitation Game, Selma, Theory of Everything, and Whiplash. So, we've all had a turn to go first, so I don't know how we want to start this one off or who wants to take first whack at it. Okay.
The moment I saw it, I had an incessant fear that it would win for the Lifetime Achievement Award, and I'm sticking with it because it has so much buzz, and it's won so many awards. It's won like 60 awards, I think, so far, which is a ridiculous amount when you put in the directing and the acting and the actual picture itself. And it just won for Best Picture for the British Oscars, whatever they call those. I'm not sure what they call them, but I know
Oscars.
It won. That's not true. And my pick for Best Picture is Boyhood.
That was a big intro for
Thank
that.
you.
I like
so.
that. It
Was
brought
good?
some
Yeah.
facts to the table. It's very solid. I liked it.
You're welcome.
Mine will be less informational and more to the point. Fearfully, I'm going to say Boyhood.
Why fearfully?
Because I don't want it to win. But I just...
It's just not my favorite movie, that's all.
Right, yeah.
So obviously, as a rooting interest, I'm picking a different movie, but...
And by the way, if it does win, that'll be 2 years in a row where something involving the year or the amount of 12 years have won Best Picture. So
again, 12 very different years.
Yes. We don't want to confuse anybody. The years were not similar in any way, shape, or form. But I'm gonna say Boyhood just because of it is something that just as an all around picture. How often does a movie like this come around? Is what I'm basing that on.
No, I mean, and that's definitely a good way to look at it. As far as like you said, it's how often does something like this ever come around?
Yeah, if I were voting, I would probably vote Imitation Game or Birdman, but I'm predicting that Boyhood will win.
Yeah, I am going a different route, and as much as I think Boyhood is probably had a very strong chance to win it.
Lego Movie?
Yes,
Yeah.
Lego movie. I'm going with How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Ah, yes. The underdog.
I know. I'm going with St. Vincent. I'm writing in a category.
All right, well, that's 3 movies that aren't nominated.
Maybe we should pick one that's actually a choice.
All right, so getting onto my serious choice, I am actually going with another movie that has won a lot of awards, including, I think, a number of Best Pictures in some different categories, but not Golden Globes or... actually, I think it won the BAFTA for Best Picture. I am actually going to go...
Oscars are called.
The BAFTAs, yeah. Or maybe okay, so maybe it wasn't maybe it wasn't this one that won that, but I'm actually going with Birdman. Just you had that ready to go.
Yeah, I did. I knew you were going to say that.
Just because out of all the movies that I've seen, that was the first one, and that is the one that I still think is just, again, for the same reason that Boyhood is something that's never been done before like that. The cinematography on Birdman, I think, gives it an edge over some of the other movies, and to the point where I've never seen a movie that looks like it's got that many, or not that many cuts, that plays through almost as if it's one full scene with no cuts. So it's for that reason, as well as the performances from Keaton, Emma Stone, and Edward Norton, I'm going with Birdman for Best Picture.
Because I don't want no scrubs.
Come on, you have to know that's TLC. So those are our predictions for the Oscars coming up. As Adam had said earlier on before I had joined, we will not be recording the podcast next Sunday so that we can watch and live tweet the Oscars for you, our listeners. We will instead record the podcast on Monday to be up Monday night, in which we will recap and we will figure out who won between all of us, between the 3 of us. This is definitely interesting too, because Adam, last year it was just me and you, but now we have Steve involved.
Yeah, threw in the curveball.
Yeah. So it could definitely be interesting. I think we all have some definitely interesting picks, some categories that could really go in any direction. So, with the exception of animated and supporting actor, because
Yeah, it's probably really between me and Steve. You made some stupid picks.
You're an ass.
Well, he either made all the wrong picks or all the right picks, because he picked Birdman 4 times.
He's either going to crush us or get crushed. We're going to post these on our Facebook, right?
Yeah, we'll post these on the Facebook page, and we'll put them. I'll get them up on our webpage, one way or another too, probably by tomorrow or today, depending on when you're listening to this podcast.
Yes.
So, or they're up already. You just have to go www.nextlevelradioonline.com, facebook.com/nextlevelradioonline, and on Twitter at NXT Level Radio. Our Facebook or Twitter handles in which we will be live tweeting. I am at NXT Level Ben. Adam, you are
at Adam Next Level. You don't know what it is?
No, I'm letting everybody read their own.
Okay, it's at Adam Next Level.
And Steve?
S. Richards 31.
So I was being nice and letting everybody read their own.
I think you just didn't know.
I won't be nice anymore. Jesus.
Didn't know you were nice in the first place.
I'm not, but I was trying. So real quick before we wrap up the Oscar talk, Steve, did you? I think I caught it earlier on in the beginning of the show. Did you get a chance to watch St. Vincent?
Yeah, I did see St. Vincent.
I'm curious what you thought.
It's really good. I thought it was. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I could see why it wouldn't be nominated for an Oscar. It's only an hour and a half, which doesn't necessarily count a movie out. Whiplash is only an hour and a half, but it's more of it's more comedy than anything else. It has some deeper moments and things like that, but it's just kind of a fun movie. It's better than some of the movies that are nominated as far as I'm concerned and how I like the movies, but I can see why the Academy wouldn't nominate. It's kind of on the lighter side, I guess, would be the way to describe it.
Yeah, Bill Murray, I think is, like I said, is fantastic in the movie. Surprisingly, it's a great role for Melissa McCarthy. It's different.
Yeah,
for her, it's not her typical role.
Jumping around, falling through tables and shit,
like she did on SNL.
Yeah, which she should have never did that. Imitation of Farley. She's not Farley. She should have never done it.
Wait, she literally did an imitation of Farley on the SNL thing?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, she did the van down by the river.
Oh, that's
imitation during Weekend Update. So it was only like 30 seconds long, but it was 30 seconds too long.
Oh well. Ghostbusters, yeah.
All right, so are we bypassing Weird of the Week this week?
Nah, we'll do it real quick.
Okay. Then
I'll just keep. Nah, I got 2 stories. Go ahead.
All right. Then why do you say we hit the Weird of the Week?
And now the Next Level Showcast presents the Weird of the Week.
Let's start things off. Both of these stories are actually in Pennsylvania, where we record this here very podcast. First up, we got a 27-foot hot dog-shaped vehicle that slammed into a telephone pole in Enola, PA. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's out near Harrisburg. An iconic Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Ask me about my wiener!
Has crashed into a pole in central Pennsylvania. Officials say the giant hot dog on wheels slid off a road and slammed into a pole on Sunday in Enola near Harrisburg. No injuries were reported. The front of the 27-foot Wienermobile was damaged. The crash snarled local traffic. Oscar Mayer has several Wienermobiles it uses to promote and advertise products across the country. So don't worry.
You couldn't say Wienermobile with a straight face.
I really couldn't. We only have video going, but I was smiling that entire time. And literally, I only picked this story so I could play that clip. So let's move on to the next one, which also takes place in Philadelphia. New Hampshire, actually, I guess this is in Pennsylvania, which is odd because it involves the groundhog, Punxsutawney Phil, which is it's Pennsylvania's involved. Anyway, New Hampshire resort offers asylum to Punxsutawney Phil. The groundhog jokes continue in snowy New Hampshire, where there appears to be no end to winter. A ski resort is offering asylum to Punxsutawney Phil after police in Merrimack posted a gag on Facebook looking for the Pennsylvania groundhog who predicted 6 more weeks of winter. A spokesman for the Gunstock Mountain Resort in Guilford said Saturday that the resort is enjoying a great winter and is concerned that the sensational attack on one of America's true winter heroes. Merrimack Police Chief Mark Doyle says the joke campaign to get Phil was an attempt to lighten the mood after a series of snowstorms that have buried New England. Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf responded by saying the state would do what is necessary to, quote, protect our beloved weather-predicting groundhog. That really means nothing.
What I don't get about that story is why would you issue a warrant, an arrest warrant for Punxsutawney Phil for the snow that you got when he correctly predicted that you were going to get snow? Like, yeah. I could understand.
He warned you.
Yeah, he warned you. Like, I would understand if he said there wasn't going to be and you got a ton of snow. That's one thing, but you're going to arrest him for being right?
Yeah, I think I don't believe in this case Pennsylvania would extradite, so I think he's okay.
Yeah, I think he's safe.
Yeah. There's a bunch of towns that do this groundhog thing now, and there was a GIF, because that's how you say it, going around of a groundhog biting a mare, which is the best groundhog thing that's happened in the last
I didn't see that. I did see a GIF of the same thing.
Okay.
I didn't see the GIF though.
Oh my gosh!
But yeah, that's it for the Weird of the Week.
So, all right, that I think is going to wrap it up then for this week. Adam and Steve, thank you for covering for me while I was unavailable.
Yeah, it was actually more fun.
I'm sure it was. I was waiting for the comments. I'm glad you saved them to the end.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time.
But again, we will be back on our podcast will be up on Monday night next week so that we can recap the Oscars for you. Don't forget to follow all 3 of us on Twitter, as you can catch us live tweeting during the Oscars. I'm sure we will have some interview next week. We're working out the details as to when it's going to be this week, so we don't want to say exactly when. We don't want to say exactly who it's going to be, just in case it doesn't happen. But I'm pretty confident we're going to have an interview as part of next week's podcast as well. So I think that's going to wrap it up. Be sure to check us out, facebook.com/nextlevelradioonline, www.nextlevelradioonline.com, at NXT Level Radio. Follow us on iTunes, Next Level Radio, and be sure to subscribe to us there as well. I think that is it.
Thanks again to Nick Clifford from VH1's Hindsight. Make sure you watch that Wednesdays on VH1, 10/9 Central. Follow him on Twitter at the Nick Clifford. And like I said, thanks again for having him come on. It was a good time.
Yeah.
And Boyhood has actually won 140 awards this year, not 60.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, furthers our case. How many has Birdman won?
I just wanted to get the numbers right. I feel bad when I give wrong information.
That is 3 people on this podcast who have predicted Boyhood would win.
All right. On that note, we're going to wrap things up.
Birdman won 138, so it's close.
Aha!
Oh, close second, but still second is just first loser.
So, all right, we're going to wrap it up. We will see you guys next week for our Oscar recap. Take care, and we'll see you around the bend.
Later.
See ya.
Ask me about my winner.